We're not live.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. As technical difficulties as I started, I'd like to call to order the Osage Minerals Council regular meeting on November the 17th at 10:13. With that, I'd like to ask for an opening prayer by Second Chair Radical and the reading of our defense. Shanka Awatika.
Chairman, thank you.
Wait,
Tatsi, Wakanda, Jinky, Awachiko me, Bale, me. They come to Wakanda, Jinky. They keep shit, Zani, Wahoi, they, Wajaji. Who had they walk by, they busy, Lacey Reynolds. All they, Wakanda, Jinky. Give her strength, Father, in this perilous time that she's in, Father. The other Wakanda, ain't doing dying shame, Wakanda, Angala Pele, we're all here, Father. While the other Wajaji, and this help me, they Wakanda, Jinky, Combra. Thank you, Father, for this beautiful day. For this beautiful day. Thank you for the seasons, Father, that you so graciously grant us to bestow upon us your great blessings, Father. Bless this meeting in the hours to come, Father, for the business of our people, Father. Give us strength today. Bless our council. Bless all those that are here today on the screen, Father. Bless our health. Bless our families, Father. Wakakale they was Zani, Zanzoli, Pasoli they Wakanda Jinki, Hampale, Wakbale that PG. Thank you, Father, for you to build again for this beautiful day. Give us strength to the hours to come. Bless those that are bereavement this hour, Father. Those that are not well, Father. All the families that have passed on, Father. Bless their families. Bless their days to come, Father. All these things I ask in Jesus' name. Shana, Wakanda, Jinky, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'd like to have a roll call, please.
List of deceased Otages, Chairman.
Hallway, thank you.
Olivia Bristow, September 26, 2021. Olney, Maryland. Albany, Oklahoma. Constance R. Martin, March 18, 2020. Santa Rosa, California. Laura L. Johnson, September 22nd, 2021. American Canyon, California. Edward A. Kersey, August 31st, 2021. Palm Springs, California. Cecilia R. Heath, October 5th, 2021. Fairfax, Oklahoma. Gwendolyn Rankin, July 15, 2021. Ponca City, Oklahoma. Stephen Spencer Befford, September 3rd, 2021. Wilton, California. James I. George III, October 8th, 2021. Raymondville, Texas. May they rest in peace.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Present.
Councilwoman Gray. Here. Councilwoman Harlan.
Here.
Councilman Redcorn.
Here.
Second Chair Radical.
Here.
Councilman Rebar.
Present.
Chairman Waller.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We need to have a couple comments. I've come off the 2 days of the White House brought us together on a committees and tribes with the Department of Interior. Their 2-day agenda covered a lot of items. First was COVID. I just want to discuss a few words. Our numbers are going up. We need to talk to our people about. We are showing, they announced that everything is 5 times higher on the reservation, even though we have done such a good job of vaccinations, that there is still a problem systematically across the nation over the ones that aren't being vaccinated being around the ones and our children. I asked brother this morning is that our prayers have got to go out to these folks and our children. The numbers are there, undisputed, that this COVID has got to have some kind of stoppage for our Indian people. Also in this summit, when we talked about the other items, they went right into their housing needs, the emergency that these tribes are having across the nation on climate control and the damaging it is doing. They're losing their lands, their homes, the fires, the rainfall, and then the complete opposite end of the spectrum where they are going into the arid conditions of a drought. We've got to think about these people today. Our discussions followed into a criteria that is over what is the concerns of the Indian tribes nationally, 574. The new administration is looking at this possibilities. The effort of the infrastructure bill is going to come directly to our possibilities for our council. As some of you know, they put billions into it. I think that this council, I saw a couple of areas in which we need to proceed with the foot on the gas, and that will be under our plugging program. The other issue came up is that a lot of tribes are looking at the going green. Department of Energy announced by 2035 they want fossil fuels done, and that was an actual announcement, and I did write that down. That will be a concern at this council because of our obligation to protect something of a trust. So we're going to have some other issues come up today, and I would like to discuss them in executive. I've had some comments today already from my council. I think that will be a grand time to have us a chance to talk to each other and what I think what the reflections of the council consensus should be. The other comment I noticed is that this transportation and building, this infrastructure is going to create jobs. I think that we need to highlight all the issues that if our funding was available, we can put more people to work. I think I'd like to invite us to go public as a pilot program. And you have some information that we'll discuss at the executive at that time. The closing comment I have is that not one fossil fuel tribe spoke. They had all the chairmen, chiefs, and the Navajo. The Navajo talked about their empathy and how it reflects on their direction. We need to really understand what our situation is. We have some downturns in which we have had to face more than any tribe on the planet. And I want to commend you for fighting through this struggle. I think that we have some comments that are going to come out of executive, and then we'll bring it out to our constituents. Is there any other addition that any council would need to take any subjects into executive?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes,
I would like to take item 6D into executive because supporting information needs to remain confidential.
Yes, thank you. Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you. I would like what was to be an executive session, for the Osage Energy and Minerals Management Act to be in new business, and I'll replace D. Since we're moving D, 6D in, I'll take the space of 6D on the agenda. And also, I would also put resume well plugging into executive for discussion. I have no problem with moving it to that.
Thank you. Council, any comments?
I do have one comment to make. Being also a part of that White House conversation, when you were talking billions, Indian country was really over 200 billion that will be infused into our economies. One of the things that the tribes will, energy tribes will realize is that the ability to, there are so many different ways that we can look at putting our heads together to go after these huge amounts of money that will truly benefit the Osage mineral estate. And so I hope that when we're in executive, we can put our heads together and come up with some very tactical and strategic ways of doing that. Because the time to act is now. The Secretary of the Interior, also the Assistant Secretary was on the phone Zoom meeting yesterday, and they were very direct. And we have talked about this several times before, that we need to go to DC or they will come here. And they made that quite clear. We need to write a letter and talk about the issues that we have here. That was on the closing day, and we have issues and we keep talking about it, but I believe that that letter needs, when we walk out of here, that ask, the letter and the things that we are needing need to be itemized and get onto their calendar. So with that being said, that's all I have, Chairman.
Yes, in discussion executive. Thank you. Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to stress the importance of what Mr. Revard brought up about the payment being lower, even though we have higher volumes of oil being sold and the price per barrel of oil is higher. I've had several calls and frustrations exhibited by some of our shareholders they depend highly on this money that we generate. I would say we probably need to put that on a high priority list, and we need to figure out what happened, why it's the value that it is. It goes against and I've talked to several on the council. We figured it, we had different thoughts of what it was going to be. So anyway, those two parameters, I did look on the last month's a report from the BIA, and about just for the month, it was 3.9 million for oil, or excuse me, 3.6. The eventual with the gas and tank bottoms brought it up to $3.9 million for a royalty share of the production. That shows me we've got the tremendous amount of our headright comes from barrels of oil. So it just kind of goes against what people out there are even thinking. We really need to be proactive on this, and I would recommend we put it high on our agenda list. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman?
Thank you. Councilwoman Foreman.
Thank you. I forgot on the agenda, we still have not received the rankings for the auditor, so I would like to put that into executive to discuss, how to go forward.
Yes, ma'am, and now I do have it recognized under the old business item A, auditor.
Okay, thank you. And we'll switch it to executive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I do have a comment on that. Yes, we are receiving a lot of calls. The production is off of a value, and we sent this out in our newsletter. The average price of barrel was $66, and the 77 and 80 that we saw a few weeks ago will be projected into March payment. And we have some other items in which Ann and I have talked about. Lacey had prepared for us, and we'll have those put on your agenda. Covinda, excuse me. I do want to say that in the newsletter, our oil revenues for the last payment was $11,467,842. We will come out of executive with a consensus. With that, council, I'd like to move on down the agenda. I'd like to go to Superintendent's report, please.
Good morning. Let me see where my report is. I too, when I was listening to your conversation, I did ask our supervisory accountant to go in and identify the highest posted price for the last 3 months, and Chairman Waller was spot on. So anyway, thank you for that.
Thank you, Lacey Reynolds.
Thank you, Lacey Reynolds. For the superintendent's report, we do show that there's 14,852, less 3,230 saltwater wells that are producing. The subsurface, they identified or they approved 7 workover permits, 8 plugging permits, 3 emergency plugging permits, and 1 emergency plugging permit. I take it that everybody knows that the head right payment is going to be paid on December 1st. It is $4,815. I did ask Cammie to provide us with some information as to the upcoming lease sale. She said that on November 8th, she prepared the lease sale scheduled. She emailed it to all of the cell contacts and she posted it on the website, as well as provided the same to Lacey. Right now at this point, she is working with Stephen Staley, who is our administrative, or actually our program analyst, as to publishing the notice in the Tulsa, Bartlesville, Pawhuska, Hominy newspapers. And she has recommended that they be published once a month for the month of December, January, and February. After that comes back in, whatever nominations we receive, she will create, well, she'll verify that the properties are available. Then her next step would be to create the bulletin and get it emailed and posted and send it to the OMC and publish in the paper publish it in the paper. So anyway, I think that pretty much, since Lacey is taking care of the auditor's report, I think that pretty much takes care of the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Council, do I have any questions? Councilwoman Foreman.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. First of all, I think I sent, and this is for Superintendent Phillips, I think I sent an email requesting that we advertise the lease sale in OK Energy today. It's a daily email that goes out to almost 6,000 oil and gas interested individuals. And I think, that would reach more than all of the newspapers you just mentioned combined as far as oil and gas interests. So it's not very expensive, and I think it would be very beneficial to advertise our lease sale in that. It will have an ad every day in an email that's front and center. So I would heavily encourage you to do that. Also, for the sake of the council, I went in and looked at your end of the month spreadsheet and noted, I've asked and asked to have the months of sales separated out because they're all jumbled up together. For instance, the report that you gave us for September had volumes for June, July, August, and September. So I separated out the September volumes, and they were 358,000, and this is barrels, by the way, not volumes, 358,126 or 11,938 barrels per day of sales. This is not production, this is sales. But if you subtract out the September North Burbank tertiary recovery barrels, that brings all the rest of Osage County down to 7,461. So there's one reason of several why our when your production is low, your revenue is lower as well. So those are the kinds of numbers I'd like to see. We need to know by month what we're doing. And so I just did it myself this time. And also for natural gas, even though the spreadsheet says September production, it actually, the bulk of the production is in August. It also has multiple months reported. And what I determined is that we're just producing 3,958 MCF. Well, it's not producing, it's sales. No, we have sales of 3,958. If you take 10% of that, that's almost 400 MCF a day in poor measurement, which at today's price, that's almost $2,000 a day that we're not getting. So I just wanted to point out the importance of making sure we improve on our gas measurement, because that adds up real quick at the end of the year in our payments. So I did want to point those things out, and that's the information I'm looking for every month. I note, just take note that there's no drilling permits, no completions reported today. That is problematic, and we need to, I thought the EIS was going to speed things up. It almost looks like it slowed things down. So, we need to be aware of all of these things, because our job, along with the BIA, is to increase production and increase revenue. And, with this latest report and the concern from our shareholders, I too agree. We need to get to the bottom of why it's a lower payment, although I'm sure it's because it's an older payment. By the way, this payment that came out, that's coming out for December, is it, what months does it reflect?
Superintendent.
That's for Superintendent Phillips.
July, August, and September.
Okay, thank you. That's
And
all I
that's-
had. Oh,
Okay, thank you.
What did you say?
Thank you. Councilman Redcorn,
Thank you, Chair.
and then Councilman Revard.
Thank you, Chair. And Ms. Foreman asked one of the questions. July, August, September is what will be reflected in our payment. Was trying to quickly grab the values that I saw. 3.9 million total for September, 3.75 million for August, and 3.62 million into the royalty cash pot, I guess you'd say, or value that's going to our shareholders. So I'm seeing, an increased amount continually. Is that what you're seeing, Ms. Phillips?
Well, the continuation of the increase of the oil and gas, or the oil at this time, then yes, we should continue to see an increase in the payment that's going to be made probably in October, November, and December. I
Okay.
mean, actually in March for October, November, and December.
So just those 3 months, I'm figuring we should see over $5,000 for the shareholder, but I'm assuming if you're including June or July, that value, it appears it should be improved if we're doing the right math that you're doing. I'm seeing an average of the last 3 months about,
Sir, it was calculated at $66.44 average.
Yes,
So-
I,
okay, so if you give me just a second.
Chairman Waller, may I speak?
That, we're looking at an average of about $3.7 million that we've got into the royalty Tilly for payment for today, for December. So I'm looking at, and I talked to Mr. Reddick a little bit, and we were figuring 5,200 per shareholder. So this seems like it's lower than our expectations. Is it possible, Chairman, we can get a full description of what's going on and why this payment is actually lower from the Bureau?
Yes,
Chairman
sir.
Waller?
Superintendent.
Thank you. I did go in and talk to the supervisory accountant and ask her about the payment when I was hearing the discussion prior to the opening of the meeting. And she pulled up the highest posted price for the last 3 months for July, August, and September. And the average was, like Chairman Waller said, the average basically for July was $69.34. For the month of August was $64.24. And then for the month of September, $67.89. So with what we are seeing now, I would hope that, or we should expect that the next payment in March is no doubt higher. Would I be able to, at this point, go in and do a speculation? No, because we still are waiting for the month of November, which isn't due until December 25th. So we've still got some time here.
Okay.
But yes, if the prices continue to go as they are now, then hopefully the March payment will be a lot higher than what it is right now. So
Okay.
yes,
Just
I too.
thank you, Ms. Phillips. And I did look at the majority of 97% of our that money goes into the royalty utility comes from oil production. Gas, Taylor, I just did quick math here, just out of my head, 1 or 2% possibly, and tank bottoms is even lower. So those threes, at least for the September payment, was the drivers for our around 3.9 million. So my question is, just the number I'm reading, 3.9 million September, 3.75 August, and 3.62 in June, and I was trying to pull up the July report. I'd like to see, those numbers seem like we should be getting more. If you just take your report that we get, the end of month report, and those three values added together, it just appears to me we should be getting more. And and if you could respond, if you could take a look at those three end of month reports, and that you told Ms. Foreman, July, August, September, add those together and see if you agree. Because that's, I'm sure you can't do that right now, but if we can get that, an answer for the Osage Mineral Council.
I do know that I don't know if you're taking into consideration the gross production tax that we also had to pay. I would be more than happy to look into that for you. Lacey may be able to provide more of a response here as well, since she's instrumental in the review of the annuity payment.
Okay, so I'd like to hear from the BI, since you're it's my understanding your hands and your minds and work is the one that actually creates the value that will be paid out to shareholders. Lacey's only adding things and checking numbers. Is that correct?
That is correct. I will be more than happy. I'm not in a position right now to respond.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll be more than happy to prepare something for the chairman.
How much was the payment to the state of Oklahoma, and when did that happen?
Hang on just a second. Let me get on my computer. Pull that up.
Will it be for the same months?
Yes.
It was a gross production.
And I don't think we need to do the math now, but if you could find those answers out, send those to Chairman Waller, and we'll get a copy. We need to start digging into why this production value is so low. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Rivard and Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Chairman. My question for the superintendent. Good morning, Superintendent Phillips.
Good morning.
I've kind of changed the subject here, and I'm just not sure that you might be able to answer my question, but I'm just curious to know, if I'm not mistaken, we have 1 million a day gas shut in because of a surface owner issue with a gas gatherer, which is Osage Midstream, and the surface owner is one of our restricted Indians. I was wondering if you were involved in the dispute. If not, can you get involved? Is there any authority under the CFRs, or maybe even the language within our lease, that would give you authority to help remedy this delay of trying to hook two gas lines together to help free up this million a day gas that is being shut in. So I know that we had the gas gatherer come to a council meeting 5 or 6 weeks ago and describe the issues that they were having. And I was just wondering if you're involved in any of that, and if not, is it possible that you could intervene and assist in trying to get this gas to the market? That's my question, and I appreciate it very much.
When you're looking at restricted Indian land and going across a restricted Indian tract, it basically falls under a regulation that's identified as 25 CFR 169 pertaining to easements. And I know that I am familiar with the situation, but I am not in a position to respond because I don't really know what the Osage Nation Real Estate Services, what the present status is, but I will be more than happy to reach out and talk to them about the status of it and see what they're doing and see if there's anything that I can possibly do. But I believe that the individual owns, so one owner. Is that correct?
I believe there is one owner. We're talking about, I think, a 1 mile stretch of land. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Miss Curry with the Osage Realty Department is trying to base the right-of-way damages based on what is being settled for a larger type, totally different type of a pipeline, a 36-inch pipeline that goes across the state or maybe even the country, comparing that type of a damage to a very small little gas gathering line that our purchaser is wanting to construct. So I think that's where the controversy lies, is in the dollar amount of damages, and comparing apples to oranges is what we kind of interpreted it, but others interpret it differently. So I'll just ask you this. I just wanted to see if you were involved, you are familiar with it, and whether or not you can or can't get involved. If you can, I'm sure that we as a council would appreciate that. And if you're offering to do that, I just would like to suggest that you coordinate that with our chairman. If there's some way you could possibly be of any assistance, it'd be appreciated if you and our chairman could maybe talk among yourselves and come up with an approach to help remedy, help us free up this million a day gas. And with that, I thank you, Superintendent and Chairman Waller.
Thank you. Chairman Waller, are you waiting for me to respond?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize. I will be more than happy to get with Melissa Curry and talk to her about the present status of the application.
And then I have talked to the chief, and we'll send that information on to his office.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman
Yes,
Gray.
thank you. Just for those who know, we were inquiring, Superintendent, the gross production tax was $571,798.31. So
Low production.
yeah. So my deal is this: when we talk about, we had a lease sale earlier this year, a few months ago, and it was on this one. So this is, it really drives home the reason or the necessity to have lease sales. Because those are the bonuses. Those are what we'll be able to see the increase during these down times. I mean, it should be automatically at least 2 at the minimum, 4 at the most, or even more lease sales. Because if we didn't even have that extra $26 to $28 on there, we would have been $40 less. Then we would have to be explaining. We're explaining now over $15 less than the last time. So it's important that we get this notification out to everybody we can. And I have to agree with Councilman Foreman that, shoot, if it means put in Oklahoma Energy and advertise that, do it. Because, you know, we did have a low lease sale, but you know what? We had a lease sale. We only had 3 of them since we've been on council, so we're looking forward to the 4th one in March. We have an administration here who is pushing against this industry, and we know that there's the potential lifespan of anywhere from 25 to 35 years. As long as we're still using oil and gas, there's ways that we need to be doing whatever. We need to be getting the most out of this mineral estate. And we know that there is, I think the estimate is somewhere around 12 to 15 billion barrels still left in the ground. So if there was ever a time for this Minerals Council to really look at how to maximize our mineral estate, is right now. They just, as you know, this administration and with the leadership at the Interior and the BIA are Native people, and they understand that this is our tribal asset. And we are trying to do as much as we can, but there has to be some more coordination here. You know, I looked at your spreadsheet where it shows these letters of everything from, you know, our approved permit applications, and it, you know, it covers emergency well plugging, workovers. And, you know, it fits on like a half a piece of paper. It just, and for what we're doing and what we're needing to get done, I don't know if you can put 2 months on here. Even if we had 2 months, we got a email dump of a whole bunch of letters last night that I was going over. And so, but we don't see anything about, you know, anything new. And I think that's what we've been talking about, is that your charge is to get some of these leases approved. We got to have these lease sales. And I'm not seeing anything each month that is showing me where we are doing a incremental climb. And, you know, as a shareholder myself, and also representing the shareholders, we were just blown away by those numbers. So we just feel like there's more that can be done, and you know, we're looking at letters that probably could have been on this, because we know that this is the middle of November and we're just now receiving some of these letters right now. So it gives us a better story of where we're going. We're getting, I mean, this is for October. I mean, if that's your standard, then being a month behind all the time, or if that's what your responsible time frame is, please let me know, because, you know, we are looking at what was mentioned yesterday on the phone call, the White House tribal leaders. They want to hear from the tribes of any issues that they are having with the Bureau. How can they do a true fix instead of just we know we have our biannual, but they're saying, hey, come to us. And we're ready to do that. So if you can explain, why we get, some of these letters, even though you know you're gonna be talking to us in the middle of the month, can we not get up-to-date information on these, your approved permit application list? Ms. Phillips?
Well, let me go back and kind of answer some of the questions as to why the report is the way it is. Because we all know that our end of the month report is always going to be a month behind, because the regulations basically say that it has to be submitted by the 25th of the month. So the end of the month reports are always going to be a month behind. Now, as far as the superintendent's report that I do, I basically go in and and this wasn't anything that was here before I got here, because I had went to some of the OMC meetings, and the superintendent and the petroleum engineer, bless his heart, great guy. Basically, we weren't reporting anything. It was, do you have anything that you want to report? And it was no. Well, at that point I got to thinking, they need to know what all we're doing. So with my administration, I basically said, all the letters, anytime that we have anything to do with the lessee, include the Minerals Council. So you're getting copies of all of our notices when we approve a permit. So I don't know if maybe the OMC might want to have something to where those letters are going in. So that there was a permit approved for a drilling or a workover or something to that effect. When I come in and do my monthly meeting or my monthly report, basically it's just saying, hey, this is what we done during the month of October 2021 as far as it was approved. This is something that the agency can say that we done. But all of this stuff where we've approved emergency plugging permits, workovers, and everything, all of that is in a correspondence with the CC to the Minerals Council. So you're already getting that as it's being issued. So I think that the way that the agency is reporting now with the end of the month report, where we have to do it at the end of the month because the 25th, it has to be submitted by the lessee, and then our monthly report of approved permits, that basically is just letting you know what we approved during the previous month. The Minerals Council is getting copies of everything. So I don't know if, I really think that with Councilwoman Foreman earlier, she said something about she wants to see the months on there. So we went in there and we put on the end of the month, whether or not it represents September, or if it was something that was a late payment, which it would represent, August. I really feel that our reports, if by chance you used our reports and maybe looked at the letters that, were sent out, that were sent to Purdue with the CC to you, and maybe emergency plugging and workover isn't something that you want to really focus in on, but you might really start focusing in on those ones that we submit where it was a drilling permit. And you got to keep in mind, all of our drilling permits are good for 2 years. One of the things that my administration has done is basically put subsurface on notice that, hey, you need to, when you know that there is a permit that is going to expire, then you need to notify the lessee and let them know that, hey, if you don't do something with this permit by this date, it expires. So I really think that accountability and so forth has really been implemented at the agency in the last several years. And I don't know if it's something that needs to be done on my side, because I really feel like we're giving you all of the letters and the notices and copies of permits that are being issued. So I'm kind of confused there. I'm kind of lost for words as to what else I could do.
Okay, look, let me just add this to it. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate having these reports, and I think we've come a long way of where we're at on reporting. But there's also, when we're able to deal with things in real time, really makes it a lot easier instead of here we are on the 17th of November, and then when we get your report, your report covers October, but in order to really be vigilant of watching what's going on in the mineral state, so we don't get hit cold with anything, or you know, if there's, when we're looking at, you know, our well plugging program that we have, if we're getting stuff as soon as possible and then we can see it, I just think that there's maybe a real-time way that we're able to do this. You know, we went through some NIOGEMS training here with Minerals Council and some staff, and we continue to see that even NIOGEMS is doing their best to upload, what they say, at least once a month, sometimes twice. And so it's like the more information that we're able to have is a better way for us to help do our job as well. So I mean, those are just comments that I wanted to make on this, because now in a month, then we'll be dealing with, you know, some of the letters that we've received, and I know when we get them, they all come in at one time, and then we have to go through and we read, you know, 20, 30 letters, and it happens right before we go into council meeting. So it's just like, well, this makes a difference. This sheds some light on the issue. So do you see where I'm coming from? If I see where you're sitting at as a government employee, but if you're here where we're at to make the decisions on the mineral state, I just, you know, let's just switch chairs for a second to think about how we can improve this process, and the more that we have in real time would be beneficial to us, because we're always evaluating, going after grants, looking at how we're working with DOE, feasibility studies. All these different things play a part of our everyday life on this side, and maybe we're being more proactive with this Minerals Council than Minerals Councils before us. And so I just think that, you know, having the information in as real time as we can get it, like the day it comes in, it would be nice for us to have it, as opposed to getting an email, you know, just a dump of letters for us to read, and it's hard to react to those as they come in. It's important for us to have that information in real time, just like how the business world works. Thank you.
Chairman, may I respond to that?
Yes, and Councilwoman Foreman.
I just asked my administrative assistant if he would provide me with what is pending for the Osage Minerals Council, and there's nothing. Though there's one thing pending, and it's so I don't know, Councilwoman Gray, I don't believe that is on the BIA's part. If you're receiving 30 letters at one time, and I don't believe that's BIA. What we're doing is when there's letters that are done at the agency, we're delivering them to the OMC. So that may be something that you might want to look at on your side. Because right now at this point, I only have one thing to deliver to the OMC.
Right. I'm just looking at staff, and I was asking them how many letters that we'll get in. All of a sudden, a bunch of letters will come over, and they're saying anywhere from 20 to 30 letters that will come in right before our meeting. And then on top of looking at all of the data that we look at, we're having to go through, I mean, I spent last night going through 20 plus letters, reading through those. So
I can tell my staff that I want them delivered on a daily basis.
We'd
and we
appreciate
can
that.
do that.
That would be great. That would be great. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, and I hate to say this, but I've got another conference call that I'm supposed to get on. I'm already 3 minutes late. So, is there anything else maybe?
Chairman,
Yes,
Chairman.
before she goes.
We have two hands
Yes.
up.
Yes, Councilman Redcorn. I've asked Councilwoman Foreman to speak, and then you'll close out. Superintendent, if you'll hear these two council, please.
Right, just very briefly, when you go back, Superintendent Phillips, and take a second look at what comprised our payment to make sure there's no errors, or if there's some, for explanation of why it's lower, please keep in mind that I wrote it down from August, August barrels in North Burbank were 609 barrels a day higher than they were in August. September barrels in Burbank were 200 barrels a day in over August. Well, August was over July. The 600 was over July, the 200 over August. So that's almost 1,000 barrels a day in the time period we're talking about. North Burbank represents almost 40% of our production, 37.5 now. And that's the only thing that's going up as far as I can see. And I want to make sure those barrels are reported and the revenue is received, because that's significant. And it could, I just want you to take another look at that to make sure that is included in our check. That's 1,000 barrels a day almost in that time period that our payment is made up of. And that's, I'd like to talk about this BIA activity in our executive session on how we can improve understanding
Thank you.
and getting our arms around these numbers.
Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Phillips, you still there? Just real quick.
Yes.
Okay, I did the calculations and looked, and it appears to be the money that went to the state for gross production tax is the hit that got us to where we are. So anyway, I wanted to clarify that. As far as what Ms. Foreman's bringing up, I'd like to see that as well. But as far as the revenue that's reported on your end of month, it does make total sense that the reason it went down was the gross production tax was paid. So if you could provide a little more commentary. I did hear one of our other councilman persons say they thought it was a lot higher than what we've generally. So just a double check on that, if you could. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for patience.
You're
Superintendent,
welcome. Thank you
is there
so much.
anything you need to add for your leave? With that, I'd like to move on down to our agenda, Council.
Thank you. Y'all have a nice day.
Thank you.
We have an audit report. Anna, do you have that on Govina yet?
Yes, it should be on there.
Do you have any statement that you was left with on this report? Could you give us a quick rundown?
Yes, do you want?
Loud.
Okay.
Do you need?
Thank you, sir. Now, just like at a bingo, take over. The caller is Kane.
B9.
Okay, wait a minute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The Osage oil and gas calculated receipts versus actual production for September 2021. Gross barrels was 359,564. Royalty barrels was 52,826. Gross barrels versus royalty barrels was 14.69%. Daily barrels produced was 11,985.45. Average price per barrel was $77.64. The collections for October 2021, total oil royalty was $3,755,215. Total gas royalty was $146,947. Tank bottom royalty was $63. Total oil and gas royalty was $3,902,225, and the actual receipts was the same amount. The Osage information sheet Total collections for October 2021 was $4,065,631.53. The average price per barrel of oil for September 2021 was $71.09. The average highest posted price for the month of October 2021 was $77.64. The average daily barrels produced for September 2021 was 11,599. The quarterly annuity payment for September 2021 was $4,830. The gross production tax paid for the third quarter of 2021 was $551,143.16. The previous period adjustments for oil was $20,222.80, and the previous period adjustment for gas was $107,202.32. And Lacey also broke those previous period adjustments down by month, if you'd like to know those. And that's all.
Sure.
On oil, July previous period production was $3,068.87. August was $17,153.93. And September, the current month, was $3,734,992.35. The total of the previous period was $20,222.80. And for gas, the current month, which was September, was $39,694.49. And she had to go all the way back to June for the previous period adjustment. June was $164.34. July was $45,790.78. August was $61,247.20. And she did $50 for October for a total of future period.
Okay,
Thank you.
My hand's up.
And Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you, Chair. The report stated, great, thank you for that report. The highest posted price average was $77. What, Ms. Phillips? Where's that? Yeah. Where I get it.
67.89 is what she said.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so what I said, she said the October was $77 for the highest posted. Okay, around 77. We were reported by Ms. Phillips 69.34, 64.24, 67.89. Those are the highest, the average for those months for the payment of the last. So we didn't start enjoying over $80 a barrel West Texas Intermediate till here recently. So that makes a lot of sense. So unfortunately, the increase was a little bit after this payment. So I'm praying that we'll have a better payment the next round because taxes are paid and we're starting to see that highest posted price go up much beyond what was paid for the last payment for the month of December. So just a commentary for our shareholders. I think I've got enough information to be able to call back those shareholders and tell them the reasons why that value went down $15. But thank you for that report. It was really good. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Councilwoman, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, the difference between what the superintendent told us the average price for September and what our own report shows is $9.75. That's not gross production tax. You know, did we receive 77.64 or did we receive 67.89 for September? You know, this is a big discrepancy, even when you deduct for gross production tax. So I think we need to find out how Lacey came up with that 77.64. Because we're just talking September right now. Okay.
I can answer that.
I'm all ears.
Yes, you're not adjusting for the production that we're paying less than a 20% royalty on. Once she has taken out all the uh, items, and that's the number that she also puts in your report, is the updated version of what is paid in for the month. But on the royalty barrels, your average actually was $66.44, as she advised us in our report. The once you look at that, and I understand the element of they're looking at West Texas crude. We actually hit over $80 a barrel last month. That's not what we're going to get paid on this payment. I do want to say that I believe the March payment will have an inclusion of the 80, and I believe even more. And I will just say that. But that's the adjustment that I see fit. I do want you to take this report and see if that's correct. Thank you.
I still would like to see how Lacey came up with the 7764, because taking royalty into account, I would think that this includes the royalty that's being taken into account. But we just need to know, because that's too big a difference.
Yes, ma'am. We'll take care of that Monday. She'll be
Okay,
back
good.
in Monday.
Thank you.
And thank you for your patience. Council, is there any other effort to comment? I'd like to move on down the agenda. Hearing none, I'd like to go into new business. We have got the 6A, B, C, and brought to us under Sherwood Construction. These are projects that are major projects over here in the south east quarter of our reservation. The reason I wanted to bring them back to you is that they're going to have to use some more dirt. And there's some adjustments being made under the material increase. I've talked to Jeremy Kelly. All of them are in the standard work area. And as Councilman Redcorn knows, this all stays in their work zone. This dirt is not going to be removed, but they have worked with the contractor, state of Oklahoma, and the highway department, that they're going to use that dirt in specific areas, grade, drainage, and also the outside of the backfill. There's even some elements of where they're going to change some grades so they're allowed to mow. I wanted just to make that comment, and I wanted to bring it up for council's attention since these are so large. Councilman Rivard.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just curious, not being very familiar with a lot of this excavation on our reservation, just from just the last few years is all. I was just curious whether or not when somebody like this group comes in and excavates, do we set aside the topsoil? Because I know that the topsoil may be more valuable and maybe have more uses than just fill material. I was wondering, do we ever separate the two, the topsoil, treat it differently than we would the clay and the more, the deeper, less valuable soil? I'm just curious if there was a distinction between the two. That's all. That's
Great question. I would like to talk to Councilman Redcorn. In my experience, is that anytime there is a sales, that will go into the actual payment. This is on the waiver of the payment, which the council's allowed me to sign. I just wanted to make you aware of that. Councilman Redcorn, do you have anything you could add to that?
Yes. My experience is Mr. Rivard's correct. You get more value for topsoil. Mr. Chairman Waller is correct. There's only two things we can do. It's either give them a full-blown excavation lease through the BIA or waiver it, one or the other. So it kind of works well for small construction projects. However, this one looks like they're moving a lot of dirt. And I heard Miss Grace say that. You've worked in this area too. So,
This is actually some of her and I's old projects.
right,
It's
okay.
taken them this long.
So I'm a little bit concerned that since we kind of slow moving on elements of, we do it ourselves, I won't go further into that discussion. That leaves us with either giving a waiver or making Sherwood Construction go down there and apply for a lease to the BIA, which I think are, those two options are kind of extreme. In my past, I think we were able to make an agreement for the amount of volume that this guy's, and it was a highway project, so, because we're really cutting out our shareholders when we waiver. So this one, Chairman, it looks like there's a substantial amount of yards being moved. So we, if it's all right with Chairman and the council, we might want to ask the Bureau if we did like the last time, the ODOT group came in and they offered an agreement for the amount that they were moving and hauling, and we agreed and they were paid, and then everybody moved on. Maybe that conversation should happen again with the BIA. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, sir. That is their trust responsibility to make sure that there is no dirt work and sales. If there is, it immediately triggers that response, and then we will have the questions at hand. Councilwoman Gray, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. You know, we had this conversation not too long ago, especially when we were going through the NIAGM's training. Anytime, I mean, if it's just a small project, I mean, we understand, sign the waiver. But with this new $1 trillion infrastructure monies that are going to be coming to within our boundaries, and our shareholders deserve every penny they can get. And if we've got an enormous amount of tonnage being moved in dirt, that, you know, that needs to have, there needs to be a monetary set aside for this. So when we look at this and someone says, well, we're gonna reuse it, there's only so much you can reuse, and I'll have to agree that, you know, whether it's topsoil or there's additional aggregate that wasn't used for the roadways, we know what it costs to build a reconstruction of one road. 1 mile of road comes around nowadays a little bit over $1 million. So that is a lot of dirt that people are moving. It's a lot of aggregate. It's a lot of, you know, I don't know how far they're going down on. It all depends on, obviously, the location and what the boards determine how far they're going down, or if there's going to be a bridge. There's a lot of different factors. So I think it's important for us to know, not only to get a report during the middle of it, how much dirt was moved, how, you know, how far they went down, because we need to be compensated for that. We need to, I know that on our minerals part, we get 10% royalty off of that. And forever, we've been waiving it. And I have to include, there's other projects that are, there's a lot of building going to be going on. Not only is it going on now, but it's also going on across the board within the county. I'd like to see what the Osage County and our transportation department, what they have on the schedule, because right now there is literally billions of dollars going to be infused into just really the Tri-County area here, because we're on the list of some of the worst bridges and roads, and so we know that that's going to happen. So I just wanted to make that comment. I think that's something that we need to address in whether it's a resolution form or something that we'll be talking about here in a few minutes, but in our act, that the compensation for new construction.
Yes, thank you. Councilman Rivard.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, just to follow up, it was just something that came to mind because I'm in need of some good topsoil for my personal self right now. and I know it's expensive. But I was just thinking, gosh, I wonder if we're setting aside the good topsoil, if there's a secondary market for the topsoil. I know that people come in and buy rock, sandstone for building and construction, a decorative rock. Maybe we could reach out to a couple of those kind of companies that trade in rock.
Sell it.
I think they refer to that industry as hardscape, similar to landscape. But anyway, I was just thinking that not all dirt's the same, is what I was thinking. And this may have some value, and it might just be another product that we could market and generate some revenue for our headright owners and not waste it. If it's good topsoil, I hate for it just to be fill material for some project down the road for somebody, when in fact maybe we ought to set aside the topsoil somewhere for to use as topsoil. So that's all. And with that, I just appreciate the opportunity to ask that question. Thank you.
Council, I'd like to hear from Mr. Breedlove. I've got to talk to Mr. Kelly, but I'd like to hear what his answer is, because all of this is staying in his right-of-way work area. With that, Mr. Breedlove, welcome to the Osage Minerals Council. The floor is yours.
Council, this is Chris Kinnaman with Sherwood Construction. I'm in here with Jeff and also Jeremy Kelly. We're all in
Thank
here.
you.
We appreciate the time that you guys are giving us in consideration of this. To address specifically the topsoil, the topsoil will all be pushed to the side so that the excavation work can be performed, and then that same topsoil will be then replaced directly back, basically the same footprint. We have to reestablish vegetation, and we'll be once the excavation work is complete, we'll be putting the topsoil back on and putting a Bermuda grass sod on top of that topsoil. So all topsoil will stay basically in the same place. It'll just have to be moved during excavation and then replaced.
Yes, sir. And the explanation I received from Mr. Kelly, you do not have any sales. There is no removing of any material. Is that correct?
That is correct on one of the projects. Two of the projects, we will be moving material from the Department of Transportation right-of-way off of right-of-way onto the Highway 60 project. We'll be moving it onto a private landowner. And then the Gilcrease Connector Road project, it's staying on project, but it's moving from Osage County into Tulsa County. We currently have a lease through the Minerals Council for that particular project.
Yes.
We have the original lease estimated 140,000 cubic yards that would be moved from Osage County into Tulsa County. That work has been performed. We moved right at 141,000 cubic yards. And we received an additional contract through the Department of Transportation to move another 140,000 yards, and that 140 will complete the project right there that will connect the new Gilcrease Turnpike right on the north end of Tulsa County, and will connect it into County Road 50, West 57th Avenue in Osage County. So once this additional 140,000 cubic yards is moved on that project, the Gilcrease Turnpike will connect into Osage County. And then the Highway 60 project, there's approximately 600,000 cubic yards of excess material on the highway project that will have to move from the ODOT right-of-way onto a private landowner.
In the Osage Reservation.
Yes, staying inside the Osage Reservation. Yes, sir.
Councilman Redcorn, please.
Thank you, Chair. That was my question. I see the two volumes that are eventually going to be moved off the project boundaries. I think that's where we need to really concentrate on. And if it's possible to get the superintendent in this conversation and see if, what are our options? Since this seems a little bit more than what we generally do for standard construction for as far as a waiver goes. Is that possible, Mr. Breedlove? We could have a conversation on how much we're going to move. I see you're going to move it into Tulsa County. And you're going to use it for the benefit of, your, your organization. And what do you say?
The Osage County into Tulsa County, that is, all that earthwork is staying inside the department's right of way. It just happens to be moving from Osage County into Tulsa County. So the project is what they call a balanced project. So there's 140,000 cubic yards of excavation in Osage County, and that same 140,000 cubic yards will be moved to embankment in the Tulsa County portion.
We need to see the,
It was staying inside the confines of the department's right of way.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir, for your answer.
Council, any other questions?
is it
We
possible?
do have Sherwood Construction does have a contract on one element down there through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We will make sure that its element and how the superintendent, do we need another one to move that other up on US 60? I would like to reach out and say that the TIP program, these are all federal dollars. And with that being said, we will take that response on behalf of our shareholder and get back with you. At this time, I will have to wait until I receive that information, and also that contract, if it could be expanded by the Bureau. I would like to have a few suggestions in Executive Council. Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
if Sherwood could provide a full list of all of the, if Sherwood could provide a list of all of the, just the part that they're going to be using on the dirt excavation. I know that we're just being told these amounts without looking at it. And to me, we need to see what you have, what the engineer has designed to and where you're going to be moving it. And I would feel more comfortable making decisions upon looking at a document that says what you're moving and those amounts and how they'll be used.
With that, that's the request I think the council has today for all of you, Mr. Breedlove, is that get that information to us, and then we can take care of our obligations right afterwards.
Chairman, if I may.
We have engineered stamped contract documents on those. We can get those to you shortly.
Thank you, sir. We'll get right on it. Councilman Redcorn.
If I may, we could probably send a correspondence to Mr. Breedlove, a little just detailing what more information we'd like to see.
Yes, Council.
If that's okay with Mr. Breedlove.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think the parameters will be on the fill and dirt material.
We are very cognizant of our responsibilities as Osage Mineral Council, and we appreciate the development within our reservation. So if I may, Chairman, we'll say we'll get those answers to you as quickly as possible, or those requests of what we're looking for.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Council. Is there any other questions? Just Mr. Breedlove, get that to us. Attention to Chairman Waller and CC Lacey Reynolds at osagenation-nsn.gov, please. And we'll get right back with you on our recommendations.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you all. With that, Council, I'd like to move on down the agenda. I believe that we have an adjustment being made on item D, that we're going to take our grants elements into executive. I ask that the Osage Energy and Minerals Management Act of 222 take its place. Is that correct?
Yes.
Anna, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray.
Okay. She's just going to go ahead and give me the screen and I can pull this document up. Tell me if you're able to see this, like,
Yes,
is it big enough where you can read it?
yeah.
Okay, so over, I think ever since we've been talking about, in the past 3 years, about producing documents that we can work off from the nation and also for us. And so there's two, I would say, very good documents within the nation that one of them, I'm pulling them up here. They're just in front of me. One of them is the Osage Nation Gaming Reform Act of 2007, and the other one is the to establish a structural and procedural framework for the Osage Nation healthcare, and that is called the Healthcare Reform Act of 2021. So to take the framework of what these two documents within the nation and create something, I'm gonna pull this down just a little bit. And what I did is just, and I'm gonna tell you, if you notice, it says draft. It says that it's a beginning document that as we work as the committee of the whole, all I'm doing is introducing this today as a working document for all of us to have input on this document. This is not, I don't take any, I have this thing about we're the Minerals Council. Now, one of us may introduce something, but we're introducing it. This is the committee of the whole, or the decision. So we've talked whether from it's been our strategic plan when we got together in the fall of 2018. We said we wanted to set some framework in place for the Osage mineral estate. But we didn't look at what is holding water. Well, we look at what the gaming has done. I mean, we've got 7 casinos, we've got 2 new builds going on. It's been financially successful for us. We're looking at doing, the nation is looking at doing another casino even out of state. We found something that works. And so if we follow a successful model within our own nation, instead of going out to some other tribe, because we talked about that and no one said, let's go. And so, or we said we would, and it didn't happen. So then I took the next document that happened just a year ago when they decided to, start taking healthcare into our own hands. And so this is a document, and I'll send these 2 supporting documents and you could see how they read. But all I did is set just an initial framework. This is not completed. It is not, it'll open up some really good conversation for us. So I just put to establish a structural and procedural framework for the Osage Minerals Council to be known as the Osage Energy and Minerals Act of 2022. What we'll do is once we get this completed, we'll have it vetted from the Attorney General and also through our attorneys. We've got one who knows 1906 backwards and forwards, and we've got another attorney that has oil and gas experience. But then there may be another firm that we need to look at. I'm not saying we're just gonna, send it all around to everybody, but I think it's worth the look, it's worth the effort. And so then the next part is, you just go through the findings and purposes. And what I've done is took the 1906 and also took the Osage Constitution of what we are charged to do here. And so all I want to do, Chairman, is go through here, you know, we got our findings and purposes. I'm not gonna go line by line because I'm asking for a special meeting for us to start working on this document and I'd like to put a time frame. I know it's the holidays, but over the next 45 days that we look at this, then get it for attorney review and AG review. And there are several members of Congress who are interested in sponsoring this, but they truly believe it needs to come from us as a collective. Again, this is just a structural framework for us to begin working off of, because we've talked about you know, everything from our conventional oil and gas to unconventional oil, and from everything from enhanced oil recovery, our well plugging. I know that others have looked at other well, we've got helium and hydrogen. And so if we address everything in the act, or we reserve it for the future, because some things we just don't know, but we do know that the other oil and, I would say energy tribes have already got their oil and gas and their regulations and their acts already in place. So when this money is starting to flow through, it will already be easy for them to go and apply for it. So we're like years behind on doing something like this. But, and then the good thing about having this act, now mind you, of course, you know, we gotta move stuff up and adjust it by the time it gets all done. But just for instance, under D, the Osage Mineral Council, it tells what we can do, and also, it can also say what we can't do too. On under E, you know, we always talk about, hey, we're gonna be at risk, you know. By this enactment, it is the intent of the Osage Nation Congress to assist the Osage Minerals Council in the development of the Osage Energy and Minerals Act for the purpose of creating a minerals management agency for profit of the Osage mineral royalty interest holders, and to administer and develop the Osage Mineral State. In addition to propose coordination within the Osage Nation for mutual oil and gas and minerals endeavors. It's the language and the strength of an act is so much stronger than and then we can put the LLCs in here. We can put how we're gonna do business. We can set up the framework and structure as we go, but we gotta start with the act. And I just went ahead, and if we didn't, you know, I put, you know, some of the framework, and then just reserve these areas for when we need to put in here. I just started with some initial definitions. You know, if we're gonna be receiving money, potentially, well, we would need to submit an annual plan. And that just holds us fiscally and operational accountability, not only to where we receive the money, but also to the shareholders. Of course, BIA is BIA, DOI is Department of Interior, and then we can add some more definitions as we go. Independent agency, which that's how we're defined in the Constitution.
Department of Energy, etc.
Yes, and then I put, one of the things that is, we are like a horse of a different color, because when we do business, it doesn't say that how we're going to do it or what is the avenue. So I just put these as placeholders, and we can expand on these, you know, because if we want to do a for-profit tribal enterprise within our umbrella, we can be able to do that. Not saying we will do joint ventures, but let's put a placeholder there in the event that we do have the opportunity to do a joint venture. Partnerships. There may be potentially some oil and gas companies that do want to do partnerships with us. Everything that we do will derive a profitability for our shareholders, not only the 20%, but also to increase with even more if there's additional bonuses or profit sharing that we could be doing. Of course, Minerals Council, that's us. I defined the mineral estate, and we can expand on that, but then we also put nonprofit. It was requested to put that in there. I know that Councilman Redcorn had talked about it. We can expand on that. It's just, I just put the placeholders in here again. You know, we put just the documents, management of the Osage mineral estate, resolution, Terra. Now, whether we do Terra or not, then we can take it out or we keep it in. But we're gonna have to put something that has to do with regulatory within here. You know, the tribal energy resource agreements is a regulatory function to enhance tribal control over energy development on tribal lands and offers potential for economic growth and removes the hefty regulatory requirements from the BIA. That's just it in the short. We can expand on it, what it is and what it isn't, but that's up to us. Qualified professional person means possessing a minimum of one of the following qualifications. And we can, you know, everyone would really like to get some more input. I just put this as a placeholder because we'll have people from all different ranges of you know, someone with 30 years, geologist or engineer, but we're just looking at, hey, here's the minimum that what we're gonna be needing. Then we're gonna have people who are working in the field. They may not be a degreed person or they've been, have workforce development skills out in the field. And so we want them to have a working knowledge of our mineral estate and also our regulatory, which will be key. And there's more that we can add on to this. Section 4 is establishment of the energy and minerals management of the Osage Nation. And then this is the part under B. I want you all to, well, let's do A. On line 106, pursuant to the Constitution of the Osage Nation, the Osage Nation Congress does hereby establish the Energy and Minerals Management Act to support the Osage Minerals Council in its powers to propose, develop, and engage in other forms of energy development as specifically set out in this section. B, for the purposes including but not limited to civil jurisdiction, regulatory jurisdiction, and taxation, the enterprise is unincorporated of the Osage Nation with recognizing the Osage Minerals Council with the privileges and immunities of the Osage Nation, including tribal sovereignty. Sovereign immunity. That's key because a lot of times when you get into business, people want to, you know, if it was just a conventional, we weren't a tribe, or we were getting to the oil business, oil, gas, or any of the energy, the risk is always there. What will happen? We could be sued, we could do this. Under this umbrella of the Osage Nation, that includes the sovereign immunity. Now, some contracts say they want a limited sovereign immunity, and we can add a clause into that. But again, this is the protection and the strength of this act. It's like, do you want to build a house with straw or do you want to build a house of steel? Well, the act is what we want to build the house of steel. So, and then from here on, this is where we're going to need our consultants and, more importantly, each and every one of us around the table or the Zoom call. Because how we want to do this is just the development formation, because we all have an idea, and they're all probably, I guarantee they're all probably good ideas. But if we have I just reserved those sections for how we'll want to set those out. So then in section 6 is the application of the Osage Nation laws and exceptions. That has to do with, you know, some of the procurement, employee staff, as long as we're not in violation of state laws and stuff like that. So, and then these all will have, and I'll fill out the titles and stuff underneath number 1, 2, and 3 under this section. And then you'll go into specifically oil, gas, and then we'll have a place for it. And I know that under oil, there's conventional and there's unconventional. And then that's where we look at the expertise around the table that says, oh, this is how this should read. We have the opportunity to make this our own, and that's what will be key to this. Section 8 will be gas, and I know that we've already passed, or we're looking at some gas measurement. That has a place underneath here. Also, we'll want to be looking at how it's reported. And the thing is, we are taking control of what we probably should have been doing probably 100 years ago. But I mean, we didn't have that expertise then, but now we do. So we'll be able to eliminate some of the issues that are causing us to not increase our checks, but this will also move us forward. This is the way that we'll be able to increase profitability of the mineral state. Like we said, Chairman already mentioned, there's ways that the government is looking at decreasing fossil fuels, but there is also going to be a need on some new technologies. And so I put section 10, new energy technologies, and we can go through that. I know we're looking at helium, hydrogen. I think we talked about carbon. So those are some things that can be put under there. And then under section 11, if we decide to go that way, anytime, and I've looked at both of these bills, these other that are past acts, hold on, then we'll be able to go through and put in there, if this is something that we're going to do, we'll have to have these regulations. And that way, to eliminate some of these federal triggers. And, we've just had a big discussion this morning with the superintendent and comments made by several council members. Why is this decreasing? Well, this is somewhat of the answer to it. The only way that we're going to have control over is when we have initiated to set up the business structure, also our laws and regulations that have to do with oil and gas, but it's encompassed all within an act of what it is that we do moving forward. And I think that will show the strength also to, as we go after these DOE grants, the DOE monies, the BIA, DMD, all these different funding agencies that we are looking at doing. Like as soon as we get our hydrogen study, that will be something. How do we do this? So we're looking at the marketability of this. So this is a working initial introduction document, Chairman. I've talked to you that this is just one way we can do this, because if not, I think we'll end up piecemealing. But this could be a strong document that OMC4 can, and I really want to get all the input from all the different council members, because I know that there's some that are looking at not only, the natural gas, the way that we do business, but this framework will be here for us to start. And I don't have all the answers, I will tell you that. And so, but I think that concludes, and I just want this introduced. Ask for a special council meeting that we can start working on this collectively, and then we'll take it to the attorneys. But it's take a lot of time to just gather and research and do a lot of talking to a lot of people of what this will begin to look like. So, Chairman, that's my short little presentation on establishing the structural and procedural framework for the Osage Minerals, or Energy and Minerals Act.
Thank you, Councilman Redcorn and Councilwoman Foreman.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for that presentation, Councilperson Gray. I really think this is kind of long overdue. We should have been pursuing a like kind of agreement, but the politics of the Osages are, it's pretty sturdy, and it's good in a lot of ways. But we're finding ourselves in different territory now. And we do drive hard to increase barrels per day. We do that, and then the royalties go up. We had that conversation with the BIA this morning. And we're looking at how can we increase barrels. We had conversations on the auction. I drive for more opportunities to sell leases, which is through auctions and negotiated leases. I don't want to go backwards, I want to go forward, because that drives up barrels per day. But what I think royalty does is we are insured through the 1906 Act that our royalties are going to be paid, and that Act 1906 Act is pretty rigid. What we're finding when we did the enhanced oil recovery grant and review. Sorry, I didn't have this in my mind. So I'll keep going. Hopefully you heard what I was saying. What we're leaving on, if we're leaving on the table, I think, especially with enhanced oil recovery opportunity, which is quite substantial, is the working interest side. Once we get the royalties there first, they're going to get paid. We're going to ensure that. The 06 Act ensures that. But with enhanced oil recovery, we might need to do a lot of background support to get those barrels moving. So with that, I think this agreement, this act, this effort will help us explore those barrels. We just got a report back. We have a substantial amount of barrels we could pursue. Is the answer that the nation also participate and help urge those barrels out of the ground? We're going to explore that, and this act gives us that ability. And we can give our consultants a marching orders. We need to make something happen in that realm. We also know, just by our conversation with the BIA, if anyone was listening, our shareholders, we appreciate your ears and your comments, that the standard process for BIA templates, which is the 160-acre leases and the 1906 Act and all those things, that was quite conducive for first or primary production and then water flooding when the Osages passed by a referendum vote to lower the royalties so that water flooding could take place in the 40s and 50s. And then, of course, we made history with Frank Phillips and Phillips Petroleum, and that's in our history books. But now we're looking at another giant peak, possibility of a peak. But with this one, I think we can't use just the BI template alone. We've got to explore the ability to manage parts or pieces, explore it anyway, as a nation. Because if we don't do this responsibly, you know, we might leave those barrels in the ground for a long, long time. Maybe, you know, we've got to get bold because our shareholders are very dependent on this payment. Like I said, when it went down, I got the calls, and they weren't nice calls. So I take that personally, that we've got to ensure every dollar they can get, we get it to them. And we got to get busy. If it's not coming out of there quick enough, we got to think of different ways to get it out of the ground. I think this act gets us in that conversation. So I just want to say I like what I see. This does need work. I'm not saying that there is work to be done, but it is an effort, and I believe Ms. Gray talked to several Congress people. She's made the effort to communicate within the governments, within the BIA, with our attorneys, and I think this is a great start. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Foreman.
Thank you, Chairman. Boy, this is, it's a lot of different complex projects all thrown into one basket. I am absolutely open to, what the purpose and, ideas that went into this. Who are the people that you communicated with to put this together? And I'm open to meeting about it. I'm not sure, I agree with Councilmember Redcorn, it needs lots of work, which we don't need to go into today. We do need to discuss what the goal is here, because there's just too many things thrown into this between business enterprise and rules and regulations and Terra and profit making and nonprofit making. It's a lot of stuff all jumbled together, and I'm not sure it will work with all of that, but I'm open to a conversation about it. And however, I don't think it's, we could have our initial meeting this year, but with such a complex act that wants to address so many things that we are already handling separately, I think it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of meetings, and we cannot try to set a goal of getting this done during the holiday season. So I'm all for having this initial meeting, but it's going to be months down the road before we can, we need to kind of whittle it down and figure out what the goal is and the I think I get your purpose, but we've got to set some realistic, reachable goals here. And right now it's just kind of all over the place. So I appreciate the effort that went into this. I know that it appears to have, like you said, you've worked with multiple people on it. And I'll look forward to working with council on trying to determine, how to go forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you,
And,
Council.
but one more thing, if you will please send us, email us a copy of this so we can, look at it and read the whole thing front, back, and start giving some thought to it.
And I think also too is that you have one item in executive that is specifically directed in this area. We've already talked about the OGA, the gas rules, things of that nature. Those have to be implemented. And with that being said, Anna, whose hand's up?
I just took my hand down, but Councilman Harlan has her, then I'll make my comment to Councilman Foreman after Councilman Harlan speaks. I'll
Councilwoman
respond.
Harlan, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe, I agree with Councilwoman Gray, Councilman Redcorn. This is long overdue. This is the appropriate forum to how we should establish this. It should all be made by a law, not these various resolutions with regulations here, there, and everywhere. It should all be put in one act to be approved by Congress. It should be an act of the nation. And so I am 100% behind getting this moving. I think the first meeting, I certainly don't think we can get it done in 45 days, and I don't think that was Councilwoman Gray's intent, but I do think that we should have a meeting to get started, if nothing else, a virtual meeting, a work meeting, something to get started on, the ideas and the things that need to go in here. We also need to invite to the table any Congress member who may be interested. I know there are several shareholders on there. Their input is going to be very heavy. And then the requirement would be that we would then pass a resolution submitting this to Congress to enact. Yeah. So I'm 100% for getting started on this. And I also would second Councilwoman Gray's motion to have a special meeting to get started on this. So I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Chairman, just to respond to Councilwoman Foreman's comments.
You were the one speaking other than Anna just a second ago, right? I can't see the hands.
Okay, I'm the only one.
You go right ahead,
Okay,
dear. Thank you.
yeah, and then well, I just want to wrap this up. So, um, all I'm asking for at this point, and, you know, um, I want to keep the comments clear. When I have followed what the, the two previous successful acts of Congress, I'm not that this is the only two, that have to do with really the economic development of, that's not like a LLC. There's a specific LLC law that is set up for ones and some of the other, I know they've established a new board. But the ones that really hold water, and this is just my opinion only, is the Gaming Act and our Healthcare Reform Act. Those are two really strong, that these are in depth, and what we're wanting to do is, when I say we, is we want a strong document. And I take great umbrage to saying that this is all over the place when it's following what the gaming bill is, the Gaming Act, and the Healthcare Reform Act is. I'm following to the letter of these subsections. So it's not all over the place. It's outlined. It was great to have not only the one template, but the second template to back up the different areas and then to make it our own. And that's where I'm excited about making it our own, because I want this document to outlive me, to where there's a future that this will be amended as it goes on over the years, as change is constant. But what defines us is how we react to it. And so if we react to that, we have a document that has never been done before in, the whole history of since the oil boom, since 1906, that we have a government document instead of a resolution that says, this is an act and this is how the Osage mineral estate will be administered. Instead of just one line within or one little page in the Constitution, we took that and we have expounded it. And then there's going to be a lot of strength to this. And I know that in the future it would be amended. So this will make me happy. But when I meant the 45 days, that we work on it for 45 days or even longer, because we know we're going to have some expertise overlaid on this. We need the AG's eyes on it. We've got to make sure that the Congress people that I discussed this with were shareholders. When I asked them what they thought about, this is the way that I would, I've looked at the business of the nation and what works. And this works. And that these have profitability. But energy is changing every day. And so we have to be flexible with it. But we need some laws on the books. And we said that. I went back and listened to the first Minerals Council that I sat on. And that was one of the first things I said, is that we need our own set of oil and gas laws. But first, we need to act. And then we need the oil and gas laws. So we could be working in parallel with getting many things done. And like I said, this is way overdue, way overdue. So with that, Chairman, I will work with you, and then we can get a date set for a special meeting. And I just thank you all for listening to the presentation, and to the shareholders. I know a lot of people out there say, what are you all doing about this? Well, this is what we're doing. This is a big part of it. We are working to increase your check every which way we can, but we've got to have some strong regulations, and also a law. And I think that this is going to be successful to us, because has it ever been done before? No. But I think this is the way. This is a good path for us to go down. Thank you.
Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you, Chair. In closing, or I don't know if I have the closing, but
Yes.
I wrote some notes when Councilperson Gray was presenting, and it's the Gaming Law Act and the Healthcare Act that she based this act, as Ms. Harlan said, kind of educated me on a little bit with the resolution versus this is a more powerful way of handling a global approach. But I just want to, gaming, one day I saw one of my nieces working, driving a nice car, her family dressed and happy, and I was appreciative of the gaming act and the gaming effort, because we can get our Osages, moving in a good direction with resources to be able to feed their families and live a comfortable life. I was impressed with the Health Care Act, because I know, and it hurts my heart to say that our other tribes were dealt horribly with this COVID. And the tribes that come to mind, I won't name because it is a painful discussion. We're relying on the U.S. government to make those decisions, and I know some of them just shut the doors. They got so bad, they just shut the doors. So our Indian people of other nations were required to go elsewhere to get their care. But I was very proud of the Osage. As we drove through that horrible time, our clinic stayed open. And when we had fears and our children had fears, they were able to go to the Osage Health Center, get tested and get advice and guidance. So that's something I'm very, very proud of from our healthcare. And what Ms. Gray's brought up is two acts that she based this on. So it's stepping out of what we did traditionally, historically as natives, to starting from the Indian agents and relying solely on outsiders to make decisions. This is a step to try to break that barrier with the mineral resources and energy resources we have, and see if we can cut into more revenue and grab it and put it into our people. So I think I'm ready to have that conversation. And I think the Enhanced Oil Recovery Project that I and Mr. Red Eagle started a couple of years ago, I think this one will fit right in with what's going to happen here. So thank you, Chairman, for your time.
Thank you. Closing comments. As I said on the National Federal Highways Administration rulemaking, I wanted to use the template that we used there to bring in the monies of the next T transportation bill into the billions that was delivered to 574 tribes, if applicable. This process I will be in support of. Thank you. Council, I have one other item on the agenda. Can we move on?
Yes.
Before we go into executive, I have update lease language. Councilwoman Foreman.
Thank you, Chairman. We have talked about this ever since our first year of our term. We have an old contract or lease contract. It needs to be modernized. It needs to have stronger language. We've made a couple of attempts. I've made a few suggestions, and I keep trying. As the solicitor has always told us, agreements like for gas purchases, and I guess oil purchases too, are between the producer and the purchaser, and they have to wash their hands of being able to have any control over it. So our only control at this time for for enforcing our lease language, is to have strong language in our lease that the
Yes.
BIA is required to enforce. Now, it will have to go through I'm guessing because I tried the addendum route and that apparently was not going to work. So I think we need to just get this process started, go through the notice of proposed rulemaking if that's what we have to do. But it all starts with turning our 3 leases, and they're actually all worded exactly the same. It's
That's correct.
one's for oil and one's for gas. But I think we need to, we need to strengthen the language on plugging abandoned wells, and we need to put in there no deducts. When our gas revenue is paid, we need to have more lenient right of way. We need to have one lease that's a combo for everything. I mean, that's how it's done outside of Osage County, and it's confusing. It's extra paperwork. It's inefficient and non-productive to have 3 different leases, in my opinion, and based on my experience. We need to have something in there to try to get around this 30-day notice to the lessee, which that's not in our lease, but we might be able to have stronger language to expedite the approval of leases. So I just think we need to turn our current form over to our oil and gas attorney and have him make, maybe 4 or 5 different suggestions, change, improve the language and submit it back to us for approval. So I'm going to make a motion that we assign our oil and gas attorney to improve our lease language with stronger language that can be enforced.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gray.
Yes, this kind of makes the case for the act. I mean, once we get that language back, then we need a subsection or a section on how we do leases. And then take that language that has already been vetted and we approve, and then we just stick it in there. That way, it's all in one place, the structural and framework of how we do work. And then that becomes a law. And then there's repercussions if it isn't followed. Because, I mean, you can't just do something without there being the cause and effect of on this lease language. I think I agree that I will second that motion, but I also think that it needs to come right back into the language that we put into this act. Those are my
Yes, thank
Of course,
you.
I guess I've got a second now, and now it's open for discussion.
Discussion,
I would
please.
like to respond to that, though. We have, as Councilmember Redcorn pointed out, we have to continue to do our work alongside any work we do on this act. I don't really want to confuse this particular motion with the act. We have to get better lease language, and we can't slow down our work now. We can't slow down lease sales. We can't slow down our efforts to increase production and get better prices and improve relationships with our producers and our surface owners, and all the things that we do. We have to keep getting accomplished. We have to continue to try to be efficient and productive, and as Councilmember Gray likes to say, increase those checks. So anyway, I just think this is long overdue, and let's let our oil and gas attorney take a look at it and make some suggestions on what will be, to modernize it and make it a stronger document for us to enforce.
Can I answer that?
Councilwoman Harlan.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand both sides of what everyone is saying, but I think it truly is a waste of our money to take on this lease language and then take it on again in the act. We've been operating with these leases. There is no urgency that can't be taken care of in the act. When the councilwoman mentioned that we don't want to get away from that 30-day notice, that's required under federal law. We don't get to get away from federal law. And so I think we should be good stewards of our money and not have something reviewed multiple times. Let's get it all ready. Let's submit it as that part of the act that we have reviewed at that time. And then we can move from there. But we're going to have the BIA's approval too to change our lease. I wish it wasn't that way, but that is how it is. So I will not support this because I think it is poor stewardship of our funding. Thank you.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Thank you. I absolutely disagree. It is not a waste of our money. We constantly run into problems because we don't have lease language in the only agreement we have with our producers, because we don't have lease language to enforce it. So I think it would be a good expenditure of our money to have our oil and gas. And really, our current lease doesn't have anything on gas measurement. We could put in a simple clause right now and not wait 6 months to a year down the road for this act or however long it's going to take to, to strengthen our gas measurement enforcement just by adding it to, and whatever we come up with will be in the act if we go that route. So we're just taking care of some of this work ahead of time, and I don't see any reason to delay it. So that's my 2 cents.
Any other discussion? Repeat the motion, Anna.
I need it repeated. All I have is assign an oil and gas attorney to update lease language with stronger language that can be enforced.
Assign our oil and gas attorney the task to modernize and strengthen our lease language.
Okay.
To review and update.
Okay. Okay. A motion to assign our oil and gas attorney to review and update our lease language.
We'll hear no more discussion. Call for the question.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
No.
Councilwoman Harlan.
No.
Councilman Redcorn.
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle.
Yes.
Councilman Revard.
Yes.
Chairman Waller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yeah, we're spending money twice.
I'd like to go into an executive session. I need a short break before we get started back up. I entertain a motion to go in executive.
So moved.
10 minutes.
I need a second. I have a second. Motion on the floor by Second Chair Red Eagle, seconded by Councilwoman Foreman. Without discussion, call for the question, please.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan.
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn.
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle.
Yes.
Councilman Revard.
Yes.
Chairman Waller.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Yes.
Motion passes.